Hello, it's Annie again. Tonight, I want to talk to you about the purpose of my podcast in the beginning. I started this podcast because I want to share some things that I've learned through the years. And right now, I want to focus on children and helping parents to develop their children. Um, there are times when we all have to work, we all have our children to care for, and hints can be very helpful. And I want you to know that I am a parent, I'm a grandparent, an educator, and I'm retired, and I feel like I've accomplished something, and I hope that you can benefit from it also. Last week, I was talking about writing and reading with young children, and for this podcast and maybe a few others, I'll continue to talk about what we can do to help our children to develop. Um, Last week I talked about how writing is talk written down, and how a child who cannot write or read can still communicate through expressions with paper or with pencil or just cutting magazine pictures out. And I wish you would work with your child, and I hope that you'll let me work with your child also. I talked about reading to children. It's very important to read to your child. But while you're reading to your child, always remember to discuss the cover of the book. And there are pictures usually on the cover, and these pictures tell a lot about what's in the book, but you want to help the child to understand that the cover of the book means a lot. Like in this case, the book is Annie and the Desert Treasure. Okay? You can tell the child the name of the book, and then you can look at the pictures, and you can see there's a girl with a map, there's a dog, there's a camel, there are trees in the distance, and there's some men walking. Well, after you've talked about that, you might ask the children, who do you think that girl is? Well, if they remember that Annie and the Desert Treasure is the name of the book, they might think that must be Annie, And since the book is about treasures, or a treasure, then that map must be a treasure map. And of course, here's the dog. And if you've read about Annie before, she has a dog, so that must be Annie's dog. Well, there are camels, and there's a picture of sand and trees in the distance, so you might think, yeah, on a desert, you do find sand. So, by the time you open the book, the child should have imagined or guessed what the book is about, and then you can go on from there. And after you've done that, after you've read the book to the child, at every page you want to stop and discuss what's on the page. You want to read the writing, and then you want to stop and discuss the picture, and then you want to have the child to retell it. And retelling is learning, because a child has to understand the book in order to tell you what the book is about. I just wanted to mention that. Now, one thing too, I was talking last week about how a child does not have to know how to read or write, but the child should be able to express themselves. And sometimes you can teach some deep things by just talking. And one thing I find, if you want to teach a child about body parts, you might want to teach the child how to draw a stick person. And in drawing a stick person, you can draw the stick person to begin with, and then, like for instance, if you might want to ask the child, well, what do you think we should do with this? What is this? And the child most likely would say, well, that's the head. And then you would ask, well, what should you have on the head? And the child might say, a mouth. And then you say, well, what else should we put on the head? And the child might say, a nose. Then, well, what else do we have? Then the child might say, 2 eyes. And you might say, well, is that all you find on the head? And the child might say, eyebrows. And then you might ask, is there anything else we should have? And the child might say, ears. Okay, so you do this with the help of the child. And you might ask, well, what would this be? And the child might say, arms. And you might wonder, well, that's right, these are arms. Well, is there anything missing from the arm? And the child might say, fingers, a hand. Or the picture needs 2 hands. And you might ask, well, what are these? And the child might say, legs. And you would ask, is there something missing there? And the child might say, we're missing feet. So you will draw in the things that the child's missing. But then after you've done that, after you've gone a little further, you might do this picture without the child, and you might put things on the picture like nose, on the page rather, and you might have eyes, you might have ears, you might have arms, and you might want to write legs. Now, you could do this on a cardboard box. A lot of times we get groceries in a box, or we get things in the mail. You don't have to go out and buy a lot of expensive paperwork. Just use a big cardboard box, and when you start talking to your child, make sure you've already done the stick picture yourself, and make sure you've already put the words down, and then you can say, that nose. If the child does not know how to read yet, you might ask them, you might tell them what the words are: nose, eyes, ears, arms, legs. And then you might say to the child, why don't you draw a line from the word nose to nose on the picture? Would you find eyes and draw a line from eyes to eyes on the picture? Well, what about ears? You might have the child to draw a line from ears on the picture to the word. And then you want them to find the word arm, want them to find the picture of the arm or arms, and you have them draw a line. And then you have your legs. So that's just a start. But every day you might want to do something a little different. Like one day you might want to draw a picture of a child maybe with clothes on. And I'm not the best drawer in the world, but you want to expand the knowledge. You want to expand the knowledge by putting, maybe dressing the child, the person up. And even though I don't draw well, I'm not trying to draw too well, because I'm not trying to make the child feel like he or she has to be perfect. We just want them to try. So we have the arms, and the person's wearing clothes, so this is going to be a dress. Maybe I could put some figures on it. But you want to expand on the stick figure by asking the same questions again. What should go here? Have the child to put the eyes there. Have the child to draw the nose and the mouth. And this helps the child to practice, and you can go even further by bringing in the senses. You might want to ask the child, well, what's the nose for? Why? How does the nose help you? And the child might say, I smell with my nose. And you might say, well, you do? Well, yes. Well, what about the mouth? What's the mouth used for? Well, I taste with my mouth. And you might go on and ask the child, what do you think about, what about your ears? I hear with my ears. So if you have them to list the eyes, the nose, the ears, the mouth, and the hands, you have really helped them to understand the senses, because your sense of smell, your sense of touch, your sense of hearing, your sense of smelling, all that's involved in the senses. That's just an example. You don't have to do it like I do it, but it will help you to expand on the knowledge that you want to give to your children. And I think that's about it for right now.